Get closer, get closer.
Effects of climate change on the moose and loon populations of Minnesota. Loon populations in Minnesota keep moving north, and by 2080, it is very likely that our state bird won't even live in our state. What is causing this? Well, one of the main causes is pollutants that cause issues with loons, such as lead and mercury, and human disturbance in their areas of which they reside in. Effects on Minnesota's ecosystem. Loons are a predatory animal and they consume fish. Loons also eat pests, like leeches and insects. Future predicted changes. Temperatures are slowly getting too warm for loons, and the pollutants aren't helping them either. With these two factors, the loons will continue to move north. How do we mitigate the effects? Well, we can't really stop the warming per se, as it will slowly increase. But what we can do is we can increase observations of loons, and we can reduce the amount of pollutants that loons come in contact with to hopefully keep them in Minnesota longer. How do we adapt to these changes? We can continue monitoring the loon population and understand the needs of the loon.
A once iconic staple, now a rare occurrence. The decline of the moose population in Minnesota. The moose population in Minnesota has dramatically decreased in the last 25 to 30 years. Once having a strong northern herd in the northwestern part of the state, now there's only a herd in the northeastern part of the state on the Arrowhead, and it continues to shrink. The many factors hurting moose. The top two are disease parasites that have been enhanced with warming temperatures. The parasites infect the moose get really weak, the moose then get killed by wolves, are unable to have calves, and it's the biggest reason for the moose depopulation. The parasite of bad neighbors. So as the deer have encroached farther and farther onto the land of usually moose, they have a parasite called brainworm that kills the moose but is unharmful for the deer. They don't even notice it really, and for the moose it's deadly. So what we need to do is stop deer encroaching on the moose land. Ticks. Ticks are another big problem. Because of the warmer winters, ticks have become a huge issue. So ticks, if they get scratched off and they hit snow, they'll die. But if there's no snow on the ground, which is getting more and more common, the ticks will go and breed and be more nuisance. And so more and more common you see moose who will scratch off their winter fur because of the ticks. And it's becoming more and more common for moose to be dying from these bloodsuckers, and they should be able to survive them. How will this affect Minnesota's ecosystem? Well, for the future, wolves and predatory animals will have less food, as well as many of the plants moose eat. They are the only ones that eat. So it could have a big impact on plants and the predatory animals that eat the moose. Future predicted change. The moose population has dropped more throughout the years, past 30 years. It bounces up and down occasionally, but it's continuing to dropping substantially. Only this year did it seem to level out, but the moose are not going to survive much longer in Minnesota if the climate continues to get warmer. How can we mitigate the effects? So we can target the middleman. the middleman in this case is snails, because the brainworm I was talking about, the snails. So when the deer they eat the snails. The snails have the parasite. The parasite then goes to the brain, and then it goes to the liver. It lays its eggs, and then when the deer poop, the eggs will be on the poop, and the snails will eat it, and then it's a cycle over and over again. The problem is moose also love snails, and they cannot survive the brainworm. Also, we can non-discriminately exterminate the deer if we really want to do that. We could kill off the wolves, which is a big reason why. But the wolves are getting more and more kills because the deer are so weakened by the parasites and ticks and stuff. We could set forests ablaze. So one of the things that moose are really lacking right now is food. Moose love young forests, and if we don't let wildfires happen, then this will hurt the moose a lot because they won't have as much food. We could also reverse climate change, but that is as you know, not something that is not easily done. So let it burn. This could potentially damage other ecosystems as well as homes and property. Killing off deer, the problem with that is deer bring a lot of money to the northern area of Minnesota. Kill off wolves, you can't really do that because they are on the endangered species list. It's a federal law, so unless they get taken off it again, that's not really an option. We can target the middleman, so we can target. There's been research, and we're trying to find ways to limit the damage by killing or trying to find ways to kill snails. But then again, those have problems as well because of snails have a big impact on the ecosystem as well. Reversing climate change, that's basically impossible at this point. But in the future, if things get cooler, moose will probably come back to the area, and yeah. Credits.
Bended mooses, I did loons.
Sources.